This video is brought to you by Onyx Off-Road. You guys remember the silly goose, right? I'm super pumped today because it is so nice outside. I get to work with the door open. We're in the middle of putting rear steer on this thing. I'm sure you've seen all the other videos, but if you haven't, let me catch you up with where we're at. So this is the world's first off-road gooseneck trailer. We did this build a few months ago, did a 150-mile adventure in it. It worked great, but there were a couple things that I wanted to change, and right now we're in the middle of putting steering on this trailer. Check it out. Oh man. That's gonna be so cool. Now you might be asking, how does that work? Well, let me show you. Under here we've got a Cherokee front two-wheel drive steer axle. You can see it's got knuckles just like it would be on the front. We've turned it around backwards though, and what we're doing is going to have control of the steering via this. This is a hydraulic pump. You could build all this yourself, but I went the easy route, bought the kit from Busted Knuckle Off-Road. So this is going to be the hand control, left and right. You'll be able to control the steering. This is the brains. This is the little piece that tells it if it's centered or not, because it's going to self-center. This is the hydraulic ram and the hoses. Before this video is finished, I want to have all this operational and working. So let's get started. Now you might be wondering why we're going back to the drawing board with the silly goose, and the answer is pride. You might have been following along our Onyx Off-Road Rugged Adventure through the Onyx Off-Road app, and if you were, you'll recognize that right here on our tack it portion of the adventure, we cut off this entire loop, this red dotted line we bypassed. So we took this bypass down here and we weren't able to finish the entire trail. What I want to do once we get our steering and modifications done, I want to come back here using the Onyx Off-Road app and continue where we left off and see if we can complete this trail in the new Silly Goose 2.0. Now if you guys would like to follow along on our adventure or make your own, make sure to download the Onyx Off-Road app and use the coupon code BleepinJeep20 to get 20% off Onyx Off-Road. This thing looks so crazy like this. You're like, what's going on? It's hard to even tell. So the trailer is attached to the top of the Jeep, and then the lift is just holding the back of the trailer, and then the Jeep is actually holding the front of the trailer. I mean, it's a little scary when you think about it, but it seems pretty good when you shake it. All right, so calm yourself. Let me show you what I've got going on here. All right, so this fancy doodad right here is basically just a sensor. It's got a rod in it with two sensors on either side. That's gonna get attached to this cable, and the other end of this cable is gonna get attached to my knuckle. All this fanciness, all it really does is tell the brain over here if the axle, if the steering is centered or not, and if it's not, it'll correct it until it is centered. Now you can manually just center your axle, but I like the self-centering much better because it just allows you to be quicker and faster in everything you do. So this is the little piece that sits in the middle. The sensors are going to poke down into these holes here. When that pushes up on the sensor, it's going to tell the brain, all right, this thing's not centered. And when you want it to center, you press a little button and it'll send that thing back until it is centered, and then the two sensors will be like, all right, everything's good to go. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of a little bit of thread locker, and let's make sure I have this in the correct order. So this thing goes on first, and this. Now this is the same exact device I've got on my Scorpion crawler that allows me to, self-center on that. So basically you steer with the handle, and what you do is you hold this button down as you steer, and then whenever you release, that's what tells it to self-center. Now this is gonna go in here, and then this gets tightened all the way down. Alright, so the other end of this, it's got about 5 inches of pull to it. So I'm going to put that halfway in the middle at 2.5. You can see I've marked it right there. So then when you get that at 2.5, I need that piece to be right in the middle, and it's not. So I need to either screw that in more, or I need to lengthen a little bit there. So I need to pull that back out because as you can see, it's further to this side than this side, and what I want to do is have that equally spaced in the middle there. Let's see. Alright, after going back and forth with that for a minute, I finally got it. It might be confusing, but all I'm trying to get at is when this is in the middle, then this bar is in the middle. So that's all we did, and we are ready to put this in now. So this end has 3 holes in it. I just made this little steel bracket, drilled holes in it, and we're going to get that welded to something. And then this end just needs to be held in place so that it doesn't kink, and I just made a little piece for that. It's going to sandwich right in there, and this end is going to go to the knuckle. And then on the knuckle, instead of putting it on this side, I actually put it on the back side. It doesn't really matter which side you put it on, but I made this little bracket. It comes up and then it comes out. It's in the same axes as the knuckle turns, so you can see it moves with the steering, and it's very important where you put that pin. So the further in, the less movement it's going to push that rod back and forth, and the further out, the more it's going to push that rod back and forth. The rod only has 5 inches of movement, you got to remember, so you got to get this just in the right spot so that it pushes it enough, but it doesn't push it too much. So I determined that and marked it right here with this little hole. So I need to drill a hole now, and we're going to put that, the end of that in the hole. Here's a little tip for you on your tap magic. This is what you use to drill holes. Put you a neodymium magnet inside there, and then you can just magnetize it to anything metal, and you don't have to worry about it falling over and spilling everywhere. Alright, so let's see if I can do this with the camera. Alright, so now this goes in the hole there. Okay, so now we've got it attached to the knuckle over here. What we want to do is just hold this end in place and make sure that we have enough that it's not going to bottom out on either side, and we do. And then we'll tack things in. Probably going to put this right about here, so I'm just going to tack this metal to this steel bracket that's coming down, and I need to make a brace, or I need to tack that brace in right here, and then we'll make our fine adjustments with the linkage. Okay, now I need to hold this part in place, but this bracket that I made isn't quite long enough, so I need to extend that. So I've just got another piece of metal here. I'm going to weld these two together, and I think that should be long enough. Okay, check it out. I've got everything tight. This is tight, this is tight, this is tight. As you can see, the axle, the steering is in the center. So this was from last week's video. I just welded that together, and then when it was in the center, and then I cut it so that I would know when we're centered up. Now what we need to do, you can see that that little piece in the middle is not in the middle. So all we have to do is come over here to this guy and start turning it out. And if you watch down in that hole, that's going to come across and right about there. So you want that bevel to be in the middle of the hole, and I think that's about it. And then all we have to do is tighten this nut and we're good to go. Well, at least for this. We'll put our sensors in, and then we're going to attach all that to there. But first, next, I want to put the ram in place. So the ram is going to sit right up against this tube and then push against the tie rod here, and that's what's going to turn the wheels left and right. All right, check this out. I've got these tabs that I'm going to use for the steering, and we sell these on our website, BleepinJeep, but they have the wrong hole size. I've been waiting for some misalignment spacers, but they haven't come in the mail. They got delayed, so I'm going to make this work. It's a 3/4 inch bolt, and that'll fit through the ram, but I need to enlarge this hole, and I think that'll work out just fine even without the misalignment. Make sure that fits. does. All right. Okay, now I'm gonna take these tabs and we'll put them through the heims, like that, and then we'll mock this thing up and in place. What I wanna do is make sure that that's cinched down tight. And I wanna level those out. Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. All right, the way I set this up was hopefully this end of the ram will weld right here and the other end right there. Now this doesn't have to be parallel with this tie rod, but the more parallel you can get it, the better. For instance, you wouldn't want it to be like that, but I could get this perfectly parallel by coming off of here a little bit, but I don't think this slight bit of angle is not going to have any effect on it, so we'll probably just weld it right about like that. But what I need to do is make sure that it's in the center of its travel. So I'm going to pull these plugs and measure the distance, and we'll mark the center. So I've got these heims about in the center of their travel, which is going to be great if we need to make adjustments. We have movement left and right, and if you're trying to pull this out with these plugs in, it's not going to happen. So we need to release these plugs, and there's going to be some residual oil in there, so watch out for that. But with those released, what we can do now is pull the ram out, hopefully. We should have 6 inches of travel, and that's exactly what it is. So if I make a mark at 3 inches along the ram here, I will put a mark here at 3 inches. Now what I need to do is push that back in so that's exactly at 3 inches. Easier said than done, huh? Okay, now we'll put the plugs in, and that should keep it from moving. Now I'll need to tack this in place with the ram in place, and it's very important that I don't get weld splatter on here. That ought to do it. Okay, now I'm gonna try to hold the ram in place while I try to tack this. I want it to be even with that bar. I think that's pretty good right there. Oh, I forgot to why does this always happen to me? That is so heavy, but I forgot to turn on the welder. Okay, I'm back for round 2. Let's see how we did. That looks pretty level. What do you guys think? It's not perfectly parallel in this direction, but good enough. If you really wanted to make it perfect, you could just build out a bracket here and weld this out here rather than on that tube. But that's gonna be almost perfect. Almost perfect. And that's what we're all about here at BleepinJeep land. Almost perfect. No, not even close to perfect. But it'll work. Before I weld this up completely though, what I want to do now is to take this tape off, and let me show you guys something. So these heims don't have an unlimited amount of play in them. That's why you use misalignment spacers. Since we're not using misalignment spacers, what we need to do is take these plugs out, and then we're going to rotate the steering back and forth and see if the heims bind at all. We want to make sure that there's enough misalignment there that they are going through their travel without hitting the stops. So I'm going to push the tires left and right. It's very difficult to push them because it's going through the ram, but what we're looking to see is that we still have movement here on both ends of the travel, and I think we're good. So instead of pulling that back out, I'm going to tack this because otherwise that's gonna pull it away. Ow. And just so you guys can see the whole thing, let's try that again. You also want to make sure that the ram doesn't contact anywhere, including the tie rod or the axle. And that's as close as it's gonna get right there. So there's a good 1/4 inch there and 3/8 of an inch on this side. So I think we're good to fully weld. When we're welding, we don't want to damage the ram, so I'm going to take that out. You also don't want to damage the heims. There's plastic in there. But at the same time, when you go to weld these on the outside, that's going to pull and spread them open. So we want to make sure that we put a nut and a bolt through here. Just hand tight. You can hand tighten that, and that'll just keep it from spreading out. Now you could put a spacer in there to keep it from pulling in, but as long as you weld the outside first, that's going to try to pull it out like that, and it'll wedge up against this nut and bolt. In fact, we'll probably have to get a wrench on this just to get it loose. Somebody the other day in the comments said that I should warn you guys before I weld because it will damage their eyes. What do you guys think? Should I warn you guys before I start welding, or do you just want to risk it? Let me know down in the comments below. Watch out, I'm about to weld. Close your eyes. Alright, next up we need to build the hose itself. So this is hydraulic hose 2600 PSI, and this is what they call a field serviceable fitting. So these are really neat. These are the only things I use because if you ever burst a hose or cut a hose or do something to your hose on the trail, if you have a little piece of extra hose, all you need is to take it apart and redo it. So check this out. So you take this piece of it and you're going to put that over the hose and you're going to turn it backwards. So lefty-tighty in this case. And you'll see when it gets all the way to the end, it's pretty difficult to do sometimes. There we go. Okay, and I can see that the hose now threaded all the way to the end. Now you're going to put this in your vise. Then you're going to take this end and it's going to thread down into here. At the same time, it's going to push into that rubber and expand it. It's not catching that first thread, so you got to push down. There we go. I was wondering what was going on there. Now this will get pretty tight, really tight. But you're going to keep turning that until it bottoms out. And the cool thing about this is, once it bottoms out, if it's not in the orientation that you want, you can back it off just a little until this is pointed in the direction that you want your hose to go. Okay, now let's say you wanted that to point this way instead. You could just loosen that a tad and it would point a different direction. It doesn't really matter on the first one, but when you go to do the other one on this end and that's pointed down, you might want it to be orientated differently on the opposite end. Because that hose is really solid, you can't just, it's not like you can just twist the hose. 3 more to go. Okay, let's go ahead and mock up these hoses here. So this is the one that I've made already, half of it anyway. So I think it can be nice and simple, just a little arch like that and right into here. So I'm gonna grab a pen and mark right there. Now remember, we don't have any suspension on this, so the pump's not going anywhere. Also, you might think the ram is gonna move, but it's not. Just the ram, just this part that sticks out of the ram, the cylinder is gonna move back and forth. The ram is going to stay completely still, so there doesn't have to be any movement in these hoses. I can pretty much just have them very solid mounted, so I think right there is going to be the way to go. Now these hoses have steel in them, so you can't just cut them like a regular hose. I find it easiest to use an angle grinder cutoff disc. Now we'll put our other end in here. These ones are going together pretty good, but sometimes they're difficult, and if so, I'll slightly lube them a little bit. Alright, you want to time this to be pointed in the right direction. I think they want to both be going the same direction, so that should be about perfect right there. If I remember right, it's going to go just about like that. Alright, let's see how we did. That one goes there, and this one, oh, we were so close. So what we need to do is grab some pliers, some crescent wrench, and I'm gonna spin that just a little bit. Oh yeah, check that out. There we go. How cool is that, guys? Now I've got one more to go, so I'm just gonna take this one to this one, and then we'll be really close. All right, check that out, guys. We have our hydraulic hoses. I left that one a little long so that I could zip tie it to this one, make a little more uniform look. Now, what's next? I guess we should get our electronics plugged in, see if we can get this thing working. All right, so here are the little pressure sensors. Oh man. Look at that thing. It's looking so sweet. These are the little pressure sensors that are gonna go into this piece here, and they have a little rubber washer on there, and that is going to act as kind of the depth gauge, I guess. So the tighter you tighten these down, the deeper they'll go, and you might need to adjust that depending on if this works right or not. It's almost time to hook this up and test it out, but before I do that and screw up the pump, I want to put some fluid in there, because if I forget, that wouldn't be good. But to do that, I need to lower this thing down. So here's where the fill ended up. So all you do is you take the cap off there, and we're gonna fill right there. Now this is probably the most expensive stuff you can get, but it's all I got right now. And it's what PSC recommends, so I don't know. I've always had good luck with the SWEPCO. What do you guys think? Is SWEPCO necessary? And is SWEPCO necessary on a hydraulic pump, like a electric hydraulic pump? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm not sure how much this thing's gonna hold. It doesn't seem to be draining down, so what I did was I loosened these fittings at the lowest point in the ram there. Let's see what happens here. Let me grab the light so you guys can see. I'm gonna take the tire and turn it back and forth, and hopefully this will start working its way down into that ram. Might either have to turn on the pump and let it try to circulate that, or find another bleeder valve somewhere. When I opened that ram, a whole bunch of compressed air came out, so I'm sure there's a giant air bubble in there somewhere that I gotta figure out. All right, guys, it's the end of the day. I need to go hang out with the wife, but I'm impatient. Let's hook this thing up real quick. Not permanently, but just connect everything and see if we can get this to work. So basically we've got a positive and negative there. This goes to the handle. 3 wires here. One is for the pump right, pump left, pump relay, and then these 2 go to the sensors, and that's about it. So let's hook this up. Okay, so we've got our sensor here. This is for the self-centering. Now we've got a big positive wire that comes, oh, that just, I just hit the, so this is gonna go right here to the pump. See if I can just wedge that in there for now. Okay, now this is positive, so we need to just hook that around there. Oh, I need to come up with something better. Just a little bit of welding there. Make that longer so I can hook it around. Why am I so impatient? Are any of you guys impatient like me? I just want to see this thing work after having messed with it for so long. That should be better. Oh, come on. What the crud? I think I'm gonna have to put a terminal on there. At this point, I might as well have just wired it fully. But I put a little ring terminal on there, and let's tighten that down. Come on. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what this wire does. It's just red. Everything's just kind of precarious down here. But I'm gonna hook that onto the pump relay, and then this just says left and right. So what's great about this is if I get it wrong, I can just switch the wires and left and right will be reversed. I've been playing with the wiring there for a little bit. I was hoping to show you guys some movement before I went in for the night, but I can't figure it out. I got this handle where it'll make noise, but it's not doing any pumping or any moving, but it's only when I press right. It's not operating on the left. So I'm not sure what is going on. I'll be right back at it in just a minute in the morning. All right, we're back. It's a beautiful day again in November, which is awesome. Well, last night I got on the internet and I was watching some videos by Busted Knuckle, and they were explaining this pump and all the setup and everything. They said that the instructions are hidden inside here. So let's see if I can figure out how to open this brain box here. Well, that's not helpful. No instructions in there, but they also said in the video, they were kind of explaining how all this worked, and it said
2 hours later.
Alright guys, so I happen to know Jake Berkey from Busted Knuckle Off-Road, and I texted him, sent him some pictures, and then I called him and talked to him on the phone. Basically, I just went over and made sure that all my wiring was correct and that I didn't have a mistake anywhere, so he talked me through that. Basically, we came down to, I need to probe with a power probe the handle and make sure all the signals are coming through, and also that the wires weren't backed out of these connectors for the handle. So here's the handle, and this is the first connector here. And I was actually about to get the probe out and start looking at this. You might notice something if you look closely, and I just noticed this a minute ago. All right, so we have blue, green, red, and then if we flip this around, we have blue, green, red. So I texted him a picture of this and I said, are the color codes supposed to come straight through? And he said yes. So turns out what happened is they make this handle there at Busted Knuckle, but this wiring harness is outsourced, and he said that they must have got that wrong at the factory. So what I need to do is, I could just turn this around and break the tab off and shove that in there, but if I can, I'm going to try to see if I can repin this somehow, pull these out and get them turned around. So let's see if we can manage that. Alright, so I've got this Deutsch style connector here, at least that's what I'm told. To me, Deutsch just means German, so does that mean this is a German style connector? Does anybody know? What does that mean? Alright, how does this come apart? I have this guy that's supposed to help somehow. How in the world? I know that some of you at home are screaming at your screen, but you're not screaming loud enough. I can't hear you. Oh, look at that. Okay, so now looks like there's some little clips that hold these pins in. So if I can grab a hold of them, I can pull them out. There we go. So there's a little clip down in there. Might actually be more handy to use a screwdriver. You just pull that clip at the same time that you're pulling on the wire. Helps if you can hold on to your screwdriver. There we go. And blue. Okay, I would imagine the easiest way to do this is going to be just to plug it back in here and then look across. So blue is going to be matching up with blue here, and then green, and then red. Over here is yellow, and then black. Now I'm going to push those in, make sure that they're all seated, and I'll open this up. Make sure they're all right there. Looks good. Now to lock those in, that's what this guy does. So you can see all those little clips that I pushed to release them. There's a little wedge, and that's going to wedge them together. First, let's put this guy back on here, and then the wedge. Okay, so if I did that right, all the colors should line up, which they do. Let's see how this works. Okay, fingers crossed. That's why I want it in. Fingers crossed that solved the issue. What do you think the chances are that this is gonna work now? Let's see. That is so cool. We have liftoff. All right, we have right, we have left, and then if you push back, so if you push back on this handle, that releases, and if you push forward, that locks. You can also press this trigger to hold. So let's say I want to go right, I just hold this trigger, and then when I release the trigger, it self-centers. If I want to go right, but then I want to hold that and let go of my hand. I can release my hand, drive as much as I want to, and then whenever I want to self-center again, I press back. How cool is that, guys? It takes a little bit of practice. Like I said, I've got this on my Scorpion crawler. About a month though, you'll have it basically muscle memory. This controller is a little bit different though. On my controller in the Scorpion, I have a button down here that locks. This is a little more kind of wrapped all in one, whereas the button is in the handle, which is gonna be pretty nice. But basically, every time I wanna turn, I'll hold this trigger. I'll turn. Anytime that I want to straighten up, all I have to do, take my hand off and it straightens. If I'm getting serious and I want to keep that turn, just press forward and it's going to stay there. I can do what I need to do, jockey around, get into position, get out of the danger zone. Once I'm driving out, I just pop. Just like that. So I'm really glad I got that fixed, and I'm glad it wasn't inside the handle here, because that's a lot of wiring mess inside there. But yeah, it just turned out to be that little connector had been wired 180 out, but otherwise I'm pumped about that. Check it out from the side. That is awesome. One slight problem that I just thought of is typically in my Jeep, the motor is right behind my seat, so I can obviously hear it. Now, whenever you get that electric hydraulic pump motor to hit the stops, you can obviously hear it, but you also want to stop because you don't want to overload that pump by trying to continue to push when there's nothing left to push. Now, the problem I can foresee in this is I'll be up there in the Jeep and I won't know when these wheels are fully locked, so I won't know when to stop, but I guess that's something I'm going to have to deal with. I'll just have to watch it because I won't be able to hear that pump all the way back here in the trailer from inside the cab of the Jeep. Sweet. So we're gonna get some sort of a wireless device. I still want to use this handle, but we want to have some sort of wireless transmission from here to the pump. So much more cool stuff to do. Let's continue. Check these out. So I got these hubcaps on Amazon, but they stick out way too far. It also doesn't get tight in there. But I think if I can get that thing real short, maybe like that, that'll look pretty cool and hide the fact that we're using wheel spacers. We don't want anybody to see that. I'm gonna make a mark right about there. We'll cut maybe an inch. Yeah, maybe an inch beyond that, and maybe make some like little tabs and fold those over. Hopefully that'll hold this in place. Okay, let's see. If we make tabs here, like so, and so on. What do you think about that, Josh?
Looks great.
Thought so.
I like what you did there.
Alright, I think what we can do is push these ones with the X in, and the other ones we should be able to push out. Now if I did that right, kind of looks silly from here, but on the outside you won't be able to tell. So this will drop down in there like so, and then that'll just get bolted up with the wheel. Oh man, that's gonna look nice. What do you think?
Looks good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Check it out, we got the wiring more permanentized. That's a word, right?
Sure.
Permanentized. But I told you at the end of this video I would have this thing steering. And check this out.
It's awesome.
So it's completely not finished at all. We still have a lot of work to do on it, but I want to take this thing over and put Josh inside of it and let him steer. We still need to do the wireless thing, but we just have to give it a test.
See how well this works?
Yeah, we gotta give it a test. A mid-project test. All right, Josh, hop in there and get buckled up.
Buckled up. I got a zip tie.
So for this application, I need you to steer this with the wheel, okay?
Alright. I think I got this covered.
This is a wireless RF Bluetooth wheel, so that should be good.
As long as that Allen bolt's up, that's center.
Yeah. Allen bolt is center. Okay, here we go.
This is not gonna go well. My brain can barely complete a single straight thought right now.
Yeah, so since we shortened this thing by a lot, it's now contacting the bumper. I think it's also because we're on the hill, so I'm going down and this thing's still up. That thing is so cool. Of course, it needs a little modifications because of we shortened it up a little bit, but we haven't got there yet. We're just doing a little test drive to see how this is gonna work.
All right.
He's got his wheel. Josh, I put you in this corner over here because I got a question for you. You know when you are water skiing and the boat is going straight and you pull out to that outside edge and you get a lot of bite, you can actually get right up next to the boat, like side by side with the boat from your water ski. Even though you're not being propelled, you're biting into that side and getting forward momentum and coming up right up next to the boat. Do you think that will happen with the trailer?
No.
No? So this is an experiment. If you keep it one side or the other, how close you're gonna get to the side of this thing?
I will get whatever angle from the back that the wheels are turning. So if it turns 35 degrees, I'll get turned 35 degrees.
That's your guess?
Yeah, since it doesn't slide and there's no centrifugal force, I don't think it will. We'll try it though.
What if you were going 80 miles an hour and you just shot that thing out to the side?
We see what happens when
we need an engineer. We need an engineer. And then, oh, you could do that. You could shoot yourself out to one side and then from that side come slinging all the way around the other side.
I know exactly what happens when you sling this trailer around.
What happens, Josh?
It flips.
What do you guys think of that? That's pretty cool, huh? There's so much more I want to show you. There's so much more we're gonna do, but before I can do that, I have to make sure that you're subscribed, because if you're not subscribed, you're not gonna get those notifications when we release a video once a week. We release videos every weekend, so make sure to hit that bell too, that little bell button right next to the subscribe button. That way you get notified when we release, because there's so much more I want to do to this thing. The steering is gonna open up a huge possibility of places we can go, you know, places we can get out of. It's gonna be so great to be able to steer this thing. But there's more I wanna do. I wanna add solar power to the roof. We're gonna cut this thing and lengthen it out just a little bit. It was really close to begin with. It never hit on our 150-mile trip that we took previously. But now that we've lowered the Jeep, that kind of swung it in like this. And when that happened, it's still fine in the back, but not so much on the front. But also, if you'll notice, it's kind of tilted upward. We're not on level ground, so it's kind of hard to see, but it's tilted upward. So what I want to do is cut right here, and then we're going to lift this back of this up. We're going to tilt this down and then reconnect everything so that that is level again. Yet the trailer is going to be probably 6 inches lower than it was before, which I think is going to stabilize it a lot. It's going to get the center of gravity a lot lower, but on top of that, we'll be able to steer it. And then we're going to make some kickouts here. We're going to protect this in case we do come across a tree where it's just going to kick out around the tire. There's a lot of improvements that we have yet to make. So stay tuned and we'll see you next week and we'll see what we're up to in our adventure then. Thanks for watching so much. We'll see you next time. I've got Hope here helping me get some B-roll footage for you guys. Say hello.
Hello.
And I just realized doing backward stuff with this thing that you can basically turn anywhere you want to, and with the steering on the trailer you can keep the truck and the trailer perfectly in line. Like right now they're perfectly straight together, if that makes sense, but we're doing a turn. How crazy is that? So that was in reverse, but it would work the same way going forward. You could keep the trailer and the truck like all together like this while doing a turn, almost like it was solid mounted. Right, babe?
That's right. I don't know what we're talking about.
You look like you were having fun in there.
Oh, it's crazy. Let's do it again.